So 2 years ago I made a video of the gardens, and I would like this year to make another video just to show you how it changed. We have a little hedge here that we've planted. It's going to be a buffer between the road and the gardens. A couple of years ago we've created this little path. So we're walking along a walnut tree, which don't have much walnuts this year. Now we're going towards new gardens that have been created last year. Here at the front there's going to be 6 plants of amaranth. Amaranth is a kind of a grain, so the seeds will be edible to be harvested and put in mostly in soups. You can cook them as oats or as rice, but it's so small. I haven't really found a good way to use them, but I'll Google that. I think you can make puddings out of them as well, some kind of little desserts. On the patch where there is straw, there was a potato patch. So the potatoes are here on the side. They've been laying here for 2 days now. And tonight I'm gonna put them in nice little bags to be kept cool and in the dark. But in 2 days they've dried out. The peel have dried out, and it's going to help them to preserve them. These are the first potatoes, so we'll eat those ones before I harvest the rest of it. Here in the front they look like ivies on the ground. These are the sweet potatoes, so this is a new thing this year. I'll show you in the blog how to make the germination for those ones. It's really not the same thing as regular potatoes, so you have to let them germinate, and then you put the germs with the seeds, with the roots, you put them in the ground. That's going to make like lots of ivy, and it's all going to curl together, and then the sweet potato, the orange sweet potatoes will be in the ground. So this is a little trial this year, little front row. Here totally at the end there's a really tall plant. It's probably going to be 2 meters high. These are yacon. So this is as well my first trial this year. This is it's like a root as well. It's kind of crunchy. It gives really nice texture when you cook them. It doesn't get mushy as potatoes, so when you put that in stews and stuff, it doesn't really have a taste, but it gives a really nice texture to your meals. I've put some flowers in between because I really like flowers in the garden. And here you can see that these are all the courge, the pumpkins and the courge, things that will keep for a long time. All the leaves are different, so they're all different varieties. And the garden still has some space. So here I've put some straw, and the straw is actually germinating and giving out little green sprouts. Here at the front there are some hoops, because this year I had put the broad beans here, and usually I put the broad beans in November about, or somewhere in the fall, and then if the winter is a little bit cold, then I want to have some hoops to be able to cover them. This year I didn't have to, but I leave the hoops until I need them somewhere else. I don't really have the time right now to clean that up, and it's not really in the way, so I leave them. The peppers here at the front, you can see that the plants are not doing that good this year. I have 5 plants, which is not good. The other ones have been eaten up or but anyway, the peppers are not going to be the thing this year, I guess. Here I have a little pots of sage. Sage is going to be a really it's going to be like a little shrub. So I have 3 pots right now of sage, and the sage will go in the herb gardens eventually, and that's going to be like a little bit shrubby thing. I might keep one at least in the garden itself, because sage gives off really nice smell, and it can be a repellent for different insects. This is Chardon Marie, just a really nice plant. Michael likes chardon, so usually I have at least one plant. These are the courgette. You can see that I have 4 plants of courgette, which is a little bit too much for 2 people, but I'll make sure that I do a lot of things with them this year, and we'll make courgette are just beautiful in soups anyway, and Mike eats soups every day, so I'll use them, I know that. This is the little nursery for the fruit trees that we've grafted in February. So you can see that some of them are working, some of them are not working, but it's not a big deal. Out of 13 plants, I think I have like half of them are working. And the other ones, the graft itself, the rootstock itself is making flowers or making leaves, so we might be able to just use it as is. But that means that it's going to be a different kind of tree. These are mostly apple and pears. That was what we grafted this year. This is my flower bed, which is really hard to keep watered. It's really dry, it's really hot here, but I'm not giving up. I'm keeping the watering, and some flowers are coming up. It's going to be here at the end. Little cherry tomatoes. I think when all the colors are going to be there, that's going to be a nice little flower beds. This is the butte, the hugelkultur bed. So it's made on a little hill. It's going to need eventually more dirt on it, which we can do next year. And this will be mostly cucumbers on this side. I have decided this year to make a lot of cucumbers, because you can eat cucumbers way easy, and I think it's somewhere it can replace a bit of the water that you don't drink during the day. It's going to give you different minerals. I think it's going to be interesting to see if we can eat a little bit more of the cucumbers, get the fibers, get the fluids happening. We'll see. Here in the front, the beans are climbing already. You can see that they are climbing on the metal grill. And there are also some cucumbers climbing. And here in the front, these are melons. They look a little bit like cucumber plants. So that's going to be the little Charentin, not the watermelons, but the orange melon. And here in the front, we have some kind of a Swiss chard growing. They're still pretty small, but if I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plants, that's going to be a lot of nice harvest for at the end of the year. On this side we have, this is actually the main field, potato field. So you see all the potatoes the plants have been dying, so the potatoes are nice and ripe. I can harvest, but if I start harvesting right now, I will have to keep them dry and cool. And here under is actually nice and dry and cool, so I can harvest just slowly at a time. I just have to make sure that I don't get any diseases or any insects around. So once in a while I do a little tour, yeah, make sure that there's not going to be rats or something in the ground eating my potatoes. But for now I think it's going to be okay for a little while. At the end of each corner there are some comfrey plants. I can use comfrey for a lot of things, and I don't really use it as good as I should, but I do have a lot of comfrey plants, and for now I use it because it attracts all the bees and it's really good for them. This is another little sage plant. Sage is such a beautiful herb. These are going to be eggplants. So in that old front field, these are eggplants as well. They are in the flower. I've seen flowers. Now I would have to see. Oh, this is not a flower, but that's going to be an eggplant. This little guy. So the flower is done, but there's going to be an eggplant. They usually have really nice purpley flowers, but I don't see them right now. In the beds, I usually have as well herbs growing a little bit everywhere. So rosemary is one of the ones that I put a little bit everywhere. You can see there's 2 of them. At the back there, this is oregano. There's a little thyme here, which is actually really nice. And there at the back, this is Thai coriander. And this, if you've seen it or smelled it, it just smells gorgeous. You have to put it in soups. I have to find more recipe. If you guys know any recipe with that, I think you use it really much in broth to get your soups a really nice Thai smell, and it's way different than regular coriander. This is another beautiful comfrey plant, just beautiful, full of bees. I think I'm gonna go this way. So from here, these are the tomatoes that are outside. So I've done a lot of cleaning. Everything is nicely cut and tied so it can grow. It has support. Outside there's not a lot of tomatoes yet, but some of the plants do have tomatoes, which will have to ripen eventually. So there's about 40 plants here at the outside. And then these are the onions. So yellow and red onions. You have to harvest them when the leaves are dying. So flat, yellow and dry. So that's going to be a little while yet. Probably at the end of July, I would say. And then you have to let them dry really, really well. So you have to harvest them in a dry season as well, that they have the time or the possibility to dry outside really well. You leave them in the sun. I like the potatoes. Here in the front there's beets, a whole row of beets, and you'll see in the greenhouse a little bit later that I have new beets growing to replace those ones. So those ones, they do have to come out. You see some of them. Some of them are huge. So I will have to harvest, and then I just replace them with smaller plants. So that's going to be a row, always a row of beets. And then the next batch, that's going to be for keeping. But those ones I can start eating fresh. That's going to be, yeah, it's really nice. And here at the front, there's rows of 3 different cabbages. That's going to be our little cabbage place. These are, this with the round leaf is more like a Brussels sprouts. And then you have something more like this with bluish leaves. This is that's going to be a winter kale. And then I have on this side here, this is another bigger leaf but with teeth a bit, and these are going to be just a regular white cabbage, which I will be using for making sauerkraut to ferment. This bed is totally prepared and ready for planting if I want to. These are leeks for later. They're kind of cute, little soldiers. I've removed all the garlics from here. There was 100 heads, garlic heads, and I replaced them with 100 leek plant. In between the leeks, I'm trying the celery. It's actually a really hard plant to grow. You can see that it's not super happy, but I really have to think about watering him a lot. They do need a lot of water. If you eat a celery stalk, it's always really crispy and really watery. So I've put 6 of them in between, which they are companion of each other, the leeks and the celery. So I hope it's going to work. This is a field that I will put flowers in, and flowers as green manure. It's called Phacelia. It's going to be like a purple flower, and in between I have some beans that are sprouting right now. So I'll put the beans in between, and the beans will be able to grow on that rack, go high on that rack, and the rest of the field is going to be covered with a green manure, which is called Phacelia. This is the asparagus, and they're doing actually really good, the plants. So all of them have taken. And what I'll do this year, I keep them growing. This year you can see that there's a little devet. I'll just flat the dirt totally flat, put nice manure, and put the whole thing flat, and let the plant grow for at least 2 years. And then in the winter you just cut everything to the ground, and then in 2 years or 3 years I'll have little soldiers like this one, and that's going to be the little asparagus coming out. And those asparagus plants, they should be good for 25 years. So I think with a little patch like this we'll be okay. It's just going to be a little season, asparagus season. If you see, our ground is quite it's not cut everywhere. Like, we leave a lot of wild places for birds, for other little creatures and insects and stuff like that. And I will stop this video and we'll start all over again on the other side.